All right, so I'm going to start recording some steps that I'm taking here. So I was able to log into my DeepRacer console, and if I go to my models, so I already have a couple models that I created. This one here is the one that I've been playing around with the most. I was able to do the training, and these are the results that I got from an hour of training my model, and the evaluation portion of it. And so it looks like it did very well. I was pretty pleased with the results I saw. So now I'm going to dive a little bit deeper here, more of the parameter details that were part of this initial take. So I use the out of the box or the default parameters that are part of when you initially get started. So in working with the team earlier today, Jesse Adams is offering a office hours where he's helping those that are going through this and answering any questions they have. So I had some specific questions today in regards to what do I do now that I've created a model, and how I take this model and make modifications to it, because it wasn't very clear to me what the next steps were. And so it looks like at this point I clone it, and all of the details and the learning that it has done so far will carry over into this clone, which that was one of my questions that I asked. I just wanted to see, do I lose the training that I did if you create a new clone? So I'm excited to see how the changes in my parameters. Thinking about tweaking the amount of time that it trains. I was also looking at some of these other parameters. So if we go ahead and clone this, so I'm going to create a clone, and so we'll have the model name, and I'm going to stick with the same track that I used previously, so the reInvent 2018, which is the same one that we're going to use for a physical track. I'm going to do the time trial, and so if I go into some of the hyperparameters here, I'm going to look a little bit deeper into what some of these things mean. I'm going to have to pull up the user guide again. Um, each one of these provides some details as to what it's doing. Um, and so I will dig into that. All right, so here's the user guide that gets into some of the details here. So I did this step, I cloned my model, and now I'm going to go through model tuning. So some of the stuff I believe I've already done. Okay, so the reward function, I'm going to have to look and see where that is. I thought that, I think I need to look at my hyperparameters first. So this was the training that I took. I'm still going through at 67% complete, but there was some information in here that I thought was really helpful that gets into some of the details about the parameters. So I'm going to see if I can find that, because I think that will be helpful in making the adjustments. First up, batch size. Now, batch size defines
how much of your training data your model should work through before each new update. Typically, the batch size can be equal to or less than the entire size of the training set.
All right, I think that I'm going to make the following parameter changes. So originally the learning rate was at 0.003. In listening to this training, they mentioned that the default is 001. And so it's interesting because when I didn't change the parameters, but it was at 003. So I'm going to try 001 because he said that this is a good middle ground. So I'm going to give that a try. And then I noticed too that the entropy and the discount factor, the settings are supposed to be real numbers between 0 and 1. And original default settings were at a different number, so I'm going to change those to both 1, and give it a try. And so the training was very helpful in just helping you understand the differences of what these things do. Entropy was more along the lines of exploration. And so the higher the number, the more it explores. And then the discount factor, he was getting into some of the details around that, which gets a little bit more technical than I know, but I will give those a try. All right, so now that I've made those changes, let's see, I'm not going to, yeah, I'm not going to change any of this right now. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next, and then I've got my JJB Racer selected. And then the reward function, I'm not going to get into that because I'm going to just tweak the parameters and see what happens. This is a little bit more outside of my comfort zone, but I was interested in, maybe as a future tweak, going in here and maybe adding a reward factor. That could be something that I look into. The max time I'm going to keep at an hour. So this is the amount of time that it will train. I felt that that was a good setting to keep for now, since I know that we get 10 hours of free training time, and then we were approved for an additional 10 hours, so no more than 20 hours of total training time. So I'm going to keep it at an hour, and the good thing is that I learned that the training time that we do with our clones as we continue to make changes, those get carried over, so I'm not starting over. And so I'm going to go ahead and create my model. Right, and it's initializing, so it's going to take a little bit of time for it to initialize, and then I will show you guys what the training looks like.